This is JCU Conversations, a podcast show from James Cook University, Singapore. Tune in as we ask experts in the industry more about their lives and their approach to success. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's listen to today's episode.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ng Dashan, lecturer in counselling at the Singapore campus of James Cook University. In today's episode, I'm joined by my colleague, Associate Professor Dr. Frederick Low, who has more than 2 decades of experience in counselling psychology, social care, and education. He's also actively involved in family justice and child well-being initiatives here in Singapore. Besides our work at James Cook University, both of us work closely with children, young people, and their families, and we often find ourselves discussing the challenges parents face today, from academic pressure to navigating social media to creating safe spaces for their children to grow up resilient and well. We'll be taking a step into the parenting lens and how parents can better understand and support their children's mental health and how they can take care of themselves along the way. To start us off, Fred, could you share a little about your clinical work and what first drew you to focus on child and youth well-being?
Yeah, I started, I'm actually a counseling psychologist, and I started very much in youth work. I suppose most people started the industry with that entry because children and youth tends to be perhaps the many interests of many young graduates in counseling or in psychology. So I'm the same in that sense. So I started doing youth work also with that age. It's kind of easy to connect. And after that, I moved on to family services and then to education now, in special needs and so on. But along the way, I work with a lot of parents, right? In the early days, you would think that you work with children and youth, it's just children and youth, right? But actually it's not. You have to work with a lot of the parents. That's kind of a bit of a journey. So now I end up, I still work with some youth, but mostly with some parents navigating the landscape and navigating the challenges in parenting. So this conversation is really great, right? And both of us are fathers of 2, right? Yep. So I thought it's interesting. And and I think increasingly fathers are also playing more important roles. Yeah, so thanks. This is a great conversation, I hope.
Yeah, interestingly, we are both fathers of two children. Yeah, and in our free time, we do talk about the parenting journey nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, in your experience, right, what are some struggles you have observed in your clinical work as well? What are some struggles that you have observed that parents themselves face when it comes to supporting their child's mental health?
So there's a couple of things, right? So I don't know where to start, but I'll try, right? So a lot of people think about parenting as like a job, a task, and so on. But parenting is actually a journey, right? And parenting sounds like such a simple term, but it encompasses so many things, right? Not just providing the shelter, food, academic support, guidance, protection, and many other things that you have to. And it also across different life stage and lifespan. Yep. So it's a journey, but a lot of people seems to think it like it's a task, it's a job. And, unfortunately for some, maybe a chore, right? It's because along the way, it's a long journey. So 1, it's long. 2, there's a lot of transition, right? And there's a lot of things to learn, a lot of new things as the child go through different life stage and so on and so forth. So often I find some parents, they struggle at some part of the journey, but actually they might do very well in other parts. I can touch a little bit more on that as we kind of move along. The other thing I thought was quite a challenge is, I don't know whether it's also in a society like ours or in an urban society where it's very dense, everything. Parents tends to be a bit of judgmental, right? Either they judge someone else's parenting or they feel that they're being judged, always felt that, am I a good parent, and so on and so forth. I think this thing created a lot of burden for parents. Yeah. Right. And from where I sit, actually, it doesn't seem necessary at all because most parents are so busy with their own thoughts. Actually, not many people are judging each other, right? So, but parents are often sometimes occupied with that, and sometimes it become a bit of a burden. Yeah. And having said that, so then it's kind of important that parents still have some level of self-awareness and reflection, and some of those will be good resources to help them in the journey, I think.
Yeah, it would be good if parents have those resources themselves. They have the knowledge to regulate their own emotions.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's a lot of things that they need to figure it out with their child. Like you mentioned the transition, how to support a child when they transit from primary school to secondary school, from secondary school to junior college and university. And you mentioned about feeling of judgment. Sometimes we judge ourselves as parents.
Yeah, it's very unnecessary. And to add on that, there's something I want to say. Working with so many parents, you realize that actually everybody's context and circumstances is very different. I mean, I work with so many parents, right? So you have parents with all the resources all the time. You have parents who have the least of the resources, or parents who maybe themselves are not well mentally, not in the best stage of their life. You have children with special needs, children at different life stage, children with other challenges, or multiple children in the family. So many contexts, right? So always there's a very good reminder that why I think there's no need and unnecessary to judge and our parents parenting, especially just along the street, that kind of stuff. And with social media these days become a bit hard, right? People take video and post it up and so on. And on the other hand also, because we're all busy with so much work and talking about context, right? So most parents also have other roles, right? Work is just one, but they may be caregivers for their elderly parents, their siblings, what have you, right? There may be other responsibilities. Some of them are actually adult students in our university, so they're pursuing what they want and so on. So, parenting sits in a context, right, of many things that they do. So there's just a lot more to consider before we judge, someone else, or also think that people are judging us, right? So it's important that we, let ourselves loose a little bit, right, and then just do what we do. Yeah, in fact, most people maybe are not paying so much attention.
Yeah. I let them. You mentioned that parenting is just one thing that we do, right? It's not our entire experience. There's so much thing that we have to prioritize sometimes, like caregiving burden, taking care of our parents, and on top of that, our work, our career, and plus parenting can be very hard. It's just being kind to ourselves and kind to others at times, right? I'm so curious, right, Fred? Some parents wanted to support their child at home. When it comes to stress, when it comes to supporting, making sure that the home environment is safe, emotionally safe and secure, right? So, but they might not know how to create that environment for the child. So, do you have any tips for parents who might want some ideas? Right?
Yeah. So I always don't respond very well to the question on tips because I think as I have laid the backdrop that actually each parenting is very different, right? So no one tips can help any parents in that sense. But I would think in the journey, what I think there's a couple of things that's really, really important. One is to understand that the journey actually go through a lot of transition of the child's development from maybe as an infant to toddler, to school going, to a teenager and so on and so forth. Similarly, the parents also go through their own developmental, or if you like, aging process, right? So different life stage. So often what is missing is that some parents they kind of not they probably can't catch up, right, with some of the very fast pace, because each phase is about a couple of years, right, before the child becomes slightly different and their needs are different and so on and so forth. So it's perhaps necessary to understand that. And that's why some parents will say counseling at a certain point, right, of the journey. And I always think that, and I share with a lot of people that a lot of parents wants to be the perfect parent. There's no perfect parent. I mean, you and I know that, and we're not. I'm not, at least.
I'm not. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that you recognize that actually, we're often better in a certain life stage of a child, right? And then knowing that is important. And certain life stage, you just find a bit of a struggle, right? A bit of help. And then that's where perhaps you can get help from the other parent, right? Get the support, share out the role, or of course get a professional help, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that bit is kind of important to recognize that it's it's a journey, right? And it's a long one. Now, just the other thing which I talked to you before is very important, which I think a lot of people missed, is that actually parenting is about relationship, right? A lot of times, unfortunately, end up when we talk about parenting, everybody talks about academic, results and so on, which I think, yeah, but that's a small part, right? As I mentioned, there's so many things as a parent do. What I think most important is a parent-child relationship. And a relationship is the most important and most fundamental. And how do you manage this relationship through the stages I talk about, right? And then you will realize that at a certain stage you have a closer relationship with the child, and then at some other stage you may need some help to harness or to have a better bond, simply because of the challenges of that stage. For example, teenagers, right? It's a natural development that there should be some movement away from family and with friends, taking external opinion, be open about what's going on, seeing the world, and so on and so forth. There's a bit of departing, and then we always hear parents struggle, right, with that. Yeah. So each stage will have its dynamics in relationship, which I think sometimes, especially parents who are new to the process, may find it hard to adjust each time. And each time adjusting can kind of be quite tiring. Yeah. But I can't say more. I mean, I have to. I cannot undermine or understate how important relationship is, right? Because you have relationship at each stage of the journey. There will be some challenges, right? Which we might talk about later with social media, for example, device use, for example, results, academic stress and so on. So what actually help and parents in working through all this, I would call external challenges, is the relationship that you build with the child. Yeah. And how parents can do that, if I can come back finally to answer your question, is to treat parenting as a day-to-day experience, right? This is really going through with the child, right? Making decisions together, and depend on the age, of course, right? Even if a family get caught up at an airport, they have a flight cancelled, and so how does the family respond? How does the parent respond? How do they role model with the kid? How do you rationalize and discuss with the kid? How do they respond? So this itself will actually demonstrate, right, how we face with external challenges, unexpected crisis, and so on. And that itself is parenting, right? Yeah. People don't talk about it a lot, but on the other end, this will require the parents to regulate themselves to some extent, right? And then at the same time, be aware about what's going on, and then what they can do to debrief with their children. And also depend on the age of the children, right? If you have an older child, you may want to have a joint decision. It's okay, so what are we going to do together as a family? If you have a younger one, you may do more explaining. So this is one example, right? Or the decision of bigger decisions like making school choices, subject combination, things like that can all be even day to day, right? What do we do for the holiday and so on? And also maybe even some discussion of what's going on in the current affairs and so on. So all these are day to day kind of parenting that we can work with our children. In terms of building resilience, right worldview, mindset, values, and so on and so forth. But a lot of times this is not undertaken, because a lot of times there's a lot of focus on academic. It's about how school today, rather than some of these things that can be very interesting and enriching conversation, which I feel. So I feel that maybe. So parents can be a bit more mindful some of these things and teachable moments, right? Yeah.
Let me try to summarize what I just said. So, and I know that you don't like to give advice, because sometimes when we give advice, right, it does come across like we are saying there's a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. But obviously, every family is unique, right? And I think the key principle here is to continue that curiosity in maintaining that relationship. And as you are saying, I this word comes to mind, almost like recalibration, because the child might have different needs, right, as they transit from the children's kind of developmental stage to adolescent. There needs to test boundaries, and sometimes when they test boundaries, it might make the parents feel a certain way, and the parents just need to have that curiosity and motivation to reconnect and recalibrate. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. And I think we should talk quite a bit on this topic of academic stress, right? So maybe I'd like to unpack that further with our experience. So in terms of academic stress, and obviously it doesn't affect just the child, it does affect the family dynamics, especially with the parents' emotion as well. So just wanted to hear your take on parental stress regarding academic.
So I see quite differently from some others. I actually see it's going back very important to the relationship, right? So but I do want to add a couple of things. Although the main parent-child relationship is very important, but we're talking about quite a complex affair because as there most of the times there are two parents, right? So there's that relationship. There's a bit different. The context can be a bit different. There may be sibling and so on and so forth. Yeah. Just so on that note, it's kind of important that if the relationship is maintained or preserved, and that's a relationship to work on, and academic stress being one of the things that the family have to deal with in some way, right? In our society, I mean, there's no, I mean, I understand, and I think it's great that the system is making quite a bit of change, right? So in the bigger picture, I think the environment or the backdrop is shifting and moving. So some years ago, we struggle, right? We talk about how so whether the system think that the parents wants the academic focus, and then the parents think that this is what the market needs and the market wants, job market require, or the future job market, and the tuition center of course then think that that's what the parents want, and then the system thinks that that's what we all want, and the children would think that that's what the parents want, and so where do we kind of stop that cycle, right? So I'm kind of glad that I think the wider system is evolving to that end. I think we're seeing some change over there because a lot of parents will complain that they can't do much because the system isn't changing. So coming back onto the parents and on the relationship, often I feel, again, to contextualize, every family is different. So if you have a relationship with your child, I think it's important to engage the child, especially now that exams are pushed back to somewhere in primary 3 and above, right? And so where the child is a bit older, and then they have a sense as a family or as a set of parents with the child, what is their expectation? What is the child's expectation? What's the child experience about academic, right? A lot of time right now is a lot of parents' expectation, and we hear this all the time. And so parents need to have some awareness about where their expectation come from, right? Is it their upbringing? Is it about themselves? Is it about the society? Sometimes it's their friends, which sometimes they're not aware of, and then they lump onto the child. But who is the most important person here is the child, right? So no matter how young the child is, you can engage with the child. And then if there's a common expectation, or at least close enough, then the family can work together. Parents can work with the child and say, okay, this is what we want to achieve. This is how you think you can try. Then it's not stress, right? It's just an academic journey. Academic is part of parenting, part of growing up. So it becomes stress where maybe the child is trying to meet some expectation that he or she feels that he could not, for example. So it goes back to the relationship, doing that, and then as the child grows up, then the child eventually will gain greater voice about what he thinks he wants to do, what she thinks she wants to achieve, and whether that's achievable, and so on. Combination of subjects, the course they want to go, and so on. Where the parents start to, so the conversation become a bit more mature. At first, maybe when the child is very young, primary school, and maybe it's more parent-led, but it's still a joint conversation. And then as it go further, then it becomes maybe more child-led or the youth-led. But again, the essence of it is to align the expectation so that the family can face it together. And we face it together if this is what you want to achieve and this is what you're going through. And it's something that is not unhealthy. Or sometimes it's interesting, or you have youth and children who actually have higher expectation than their parents. And they stress themselves, and that's where parents will come in to do the other things. So parents is doing this balancing thing, and then once it's aligned, and then they work towards, and the parents doing providing the resource if they can, and the tuition and what have you. If used appropriately, they're healthy. And the support, driving them around, and making sure a good meal before the exam, and so on and so on. Those are wonderful things to do if the family or the parent and child are aligned. Is there stress? Maybe there's some due stress, right? Some deserving stress, okay, to help them perform, but not to a point of distress, right? So I still go back to a lot about that relationship. That is the fundamental. And then the academic work, academic expectation, leisure, other things sit on top of that. You have a good relationship to float, and then you can float any vessels you want, right? On this river of parenting.
Yeah. In fact, you touch on the point that, there's a lot of other factors, right? That kind of influence that academic stress as well, beyond that family unit, the parent and the child expectation, right? Like as a parent myself, sometimes I get stressed, right? When I received WhatsApp message from the parent chat group, right? Okay. So sometimes the parents within that chat group is stressed, and their stress make me stressed, right? Sometimes my child becomes stressed because the teachers at the school is stressed about their exam grades, right? How many percentage of the students actually pass. So stress does come from all front, not just from the school, not just from the parents' WhatsApp group. Sometimes it might come from social media as well. So in your counseling work, when it comes to parental stress, right? Do you have any suggestion in terms of what parents should take note of?
So first thing I talk about is the judgmental thing. A lot of times this gets to us because we felt judged. Which I think most people are not judging, but we felt judged, and then it become a reaction, right? So that's one. So the other thing is just now I also talk about expectation, and actually most important is self-awareness. Does parents know how much of their parenting actually has bits and pieces of their upbringing, bits and pieces of their peers, bits and pieces of people around the society, and so on and so forth. The more aware they are, that's why I say there are a lot of educated parents, but they are not very aware.
Emotionally
right?
aware.
Emotionally or even cognitively aware, right? So if they are aware, then the natural exercise, whether you do with a counselor or you have a good relationship with your spouse, and it's very good to have that conversation to say, okay, which are some parts we want to keep and pass on to the next generation, which are some parts we don't want, right? When it comes to our own upbringing, right? Which are some parts is acceptable now, which are some parts maybe not so acceptable. Which are some parts from society we want to take, which are some parts that we don't. We can't live in a vacuum, right? We can't say, we are living in Singapore and the circumstances is that, right? That the academic has some priority and so on and so forth. So what are some things that we think? What are some things that we don't? What are some things that we think, but we also do something else, like leisure and so on and so forth. So it's a conscious and conscious decision, intentional. I find some parents, like you and I, maybe not you and I, maybe not fair to say that, right? That sometimes they do not have the time or the mind space, right, to think about this, to work through with their spouse. And I'm assuming that they have a spouse to work through with, right? And I'm assuming there's a good relationship with their spouse to work through with. And a lot of time, we know it's the other way around. So if they could, is in that sense very straightforward, right? Managing your own. When I say managing expectation, first you have to be aware expectation, where they come from, what are the roots of some of those things, and make a decision what are some things you want or don't want, and then talk to the partner you're working with, and then by extension sometimes we talk to teachers. We can tell teachers, talk to the child, this is not what the child wants at this point of time. The child doesn't need a leadership position at this point of time. Maybe we don't, maybe next time round, and so on and so forth, right? Again, I say it's a day-to-day how we manage. But to be fair, we're all not successful. There are some times that we mess things up and so on, and then but that's another form of modeling, right? So how do we help our child see that sometimes it's okay that we dysregulate a little bit, but we know how to come back, right? Be in sync with what's going on.
To summarize our conversation, this word recalibration keeps coming up. But to recalibrate, we need to know where we are, to be mindful, to have that space, to know about our emotion, what we saw in terms of our parents, their parenting style, and how it influenced our own parenting style, and recalibrate to fulfill the needs and expectation of our child. Right? Because at the end of the day, we are here trying to protect and support and nurture our child. So, Fred, I'm just wondering, we talk about time, resources, right? So, what if the parents don't feel like they are well equipped with the resources and the time and space, right, to support their child? Where can they turn to for more support in this area?
Actually, it might be quite useful for the parent to seek out the help of a professional counselor who's probably very much involved in parenting. so that they can talk this through. A lot of times, parents think that counseling may be for the child, but actually, what we try to say is parenting sessions, right, for the parents. So parents then can have a confidential space, with their spouse or with their partner or themselves to work through what's on their mind. How do they want to do this, right? And then they can then design the architecture of how they want to do this parenting. And each step of the way, you need not to be very regular, but maybe once every now and then when they kind of need help, right? So, but not everybody needs that. For some parents who needs it, they can talk to a professional counselor.
Yep. Thank you for sharing that, Fred. Fred, one last question to end off this conversation.
Sure.
Is that given your life experience and also the observation that you have saw and the help that you are given to parents, given all that, if you could travel back in time, right, what advice would you give your younger self? Perhaps your 21 years old self.
Yeah, that makes me feel very old, So so long ago. Yeah, no, I don't think I would say anything different from what I'm perhaps doing now. I think it's important that we see life as a journey and we reflect on each experience we have, right? Each day we have different experience, and each time we have the experience, whether it's parenting, whether it's work, whether it's something else, good or bad, right? And then I would probably tell myself, continue to be reflective, right? And learn and grow. And perhaps the same thing I would say to parents, right? While the child, we say all these things we're supposed to help the child prevent, protect, and provide, and so on and so forth. But we are also part of our own growth journey, right? So not thinking that we are the provider, but reflect and think, and so that we can all grow for each of the experience that we have.
Reflect and think and handle the day.
Yeah.
Day by day.
That's the day at time,
okay.
man.
Dr. Low, Fred,
Yeah.
this has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you for sharing with us your perspective and your experience. Thank you so much for being here with us. And where can listeners find you online?
Okay. They can always look at James Cook University's website, right? My profile, as well as I think my contact is provided. I'm also on LinkedIn, so they can look me up there. And if anything, we can always connect up and have a chat like this.
Okay. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.